Oh no, that's good. It's all good.
You're listening to The Voice, 17104.com. Welcome to Did You Know? Podcast, your host, Richard Utley. Dedicated to the African American viewers, the program is aimed to celebrate African American culture and deal with the real and relevant topics that impact the everyday lives of the African American community through frank and insightful dialogue with local and national influencers. Every day, there is another horrible, discouraging news story, directly or indirectly impacting African Americans. But we need to look at the shining star in the galaxy of Black America. It is time to tell our story.
Good evening, and to another Did You Know? Well, we're going to have a good program tonight. I'm excited. I have a very special guest on. I'll be bringing on in a few minutes. But let me get to the things that I always talk about first. First thing I'm going to bring up, and I always bring up, we got to look out for our own community and we have to look out for ourselves. We can't wait for somebody to ride through our neighborhoods and correct everything for us. We got to do it ourselves. You know, I saw a quote and I kind of laughed at it, but I think it makes sense. And it says, the more you learn, the more you see. So I just want you to think about that, audience. The more you learn, the more you see. That's why history is so important. Also, as I've been bringing up all along, I'm going to continue to bring up, it's important for us to determine our own destiny. And I will continue to bring up all the time that we need to get elected officials that look out for us, have our vested interests. And so I think it's important for some of you out there to think about after this general election to run for office. So I want you to think about it now. We need some people to run for mayors. We need people to run for city council because some of you are upset with the way government is. Well, then stop talking and do something. Some of you don't like the criminal justice system, so I think some of you should maybe want to run for district justice. I think that a lot of you don't like the way the police operate. Then you become a policeman. You become a fireman. You become things that you complain about. If your kids can't read and write, stop blaming on everybody else. So maybe why don't you get involved? Why don't you go to the school board meetings? Yes, that's what I said. And don't get upset with me because you'll go to a football game, basketball game. You'll tell me what NFL team and what position they're in. But things that are very important, sometimes we become very lax. And I think that we have to become much more cognizant of what's going on around us. For example, how many of you know that in the state of Pennsylvania right now, the General Assembly is proposing some amendments that's going to affect you, but you probably don't even know about it. So I'm just going to say some of them. There's about 6 of them. Proposed amendments that could become law in Pennsylvania. Open a 2-year window for child sexual abuse victims to file civil lawsuits. That's important. But did you know that they were working on that? Did you also know they have amendments to spell out there is no right to taxpayers funding abortion or guarantee of the right to an abortion? Did you know that? Oh, you probably did. You also, there's another amendment. In the past, if somebody ran for governor and lieutenant governor, in the past, you know, each one would run separate. The lieutenant governor runs separate, and the governor runs separate. But now they're going to try to change that and let the person that's running for governor pick his own running mate. Here's the one they snuck on you. Number 4, require voters to produce an ID. That's right. They want you to produce an ID every time you vote. You heard what I said. Every time you vote. See, they're trying to get voter ID in. But if you sit by and don't think about it, it's going to be law. Don't be crying when the horse is already out the barn and up the street. I keep telling you that. We got to stay cognizant. We can't fall asleep at 5. Allow the General Assembly to disapprove executive branch regulations. Now we elect all these people, and now they decide that they don't like whatever the governor and his cabinet has come up with. They don't like it. They want to can it. And the 6th one is very interesting. Authorize the Auditor General to regularly audit election results. Ladies and gentlemen, what does that tell you? I'm just asking, what does it tell you? Because as I told you before, this program is Did You Know? Is to get you to think, get you to do your own research. That's the most important thing about this program. I want you to think, I want you to do your own research. Don't take my word, don't take anybody else's word. And that's why it's important. You know, I talk about politics, and I talk about one of the things I think is very important is that we have to make sure that our elected officials have credibility to us. And one of the things that bother me is always, I call it, political people are hypocrites. It has nothing to do with Democrats, Republicans, and independents. It's about being a hypocrite. And I'll give you an example. A PA congressman attended a same-sex wedding of his son 3 days after voting against legislation to protect the same-sex marriage. Ain't that crazy? He voted it down, but yet he went to his son's same-sex marriage. That's a hypocrite. That's right. U.S. Representative Lynn Thompson, a Republican. Democrats the same way. Stop being hypocrites. Step up and believe. That's what's the problem with this country right now. It's the things that we don't believe. And we have to make people accountable for their actions. So, you know, I've been saying we're going to start rewarding those who support our agenda and punishing those who don't. And I'm going to say that always because I think it's very important. You know, you've been watching all this January 6th thing, and I don't know if you know this or not, but to put it in perspective for you, but I want you to do your own research. Now, you all know that once the general election's over, then they have the elector. For those who don't know what the elector are, then you need to go do your research to figure out what the elector is. So the electoral college. So each state comes together and then they decide. Pennsylvania is like whoever wins the state of Pennsylvania gets the elector. So Pennsylvania has 20. That's what we had, 20. Now, in this whole election, for some reason, 7 states was questioned, was it a legitimacy election? And I'm not getting into the legitimacy of the election. I'm getting into the process of it. And what I mean by that is that we had 20 people who was going to be the elector for Pennsylvania. And we also know that somebody decided that they didn't think the election was fair and decided that there was a lot of shenanigans going on in the election. What's remarkable, especially for Pennsylvania, they really believed that there was a lot of shenanigans going on in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, in the urban areas. Isn't that remarkable? They thought in the urban area we could decide, we had all the cahoots, how we were going to determine who was going to be the president of the United States. The most important thing, we need to vote. But I ain't know we had all that sophistication, because usually you always hear things about us. We ain't that bright, we ain't that smart, we lazy, we this and that. But yet we're supposed to be that brilliant to figure out how we was going to throw this election. So they're giving us more credit than normally they would give us. But I just want you to keep this in mind, that in Pennsylvania, there was another group that came up with 20 other electors that they were going to replace with. I just want to put it in perspective for you because I want you to think. And you probably say, well, where was that 20 that they had? They had a meeting. Where did they have a meeting at? They had a meeting in Harrisburg. I can tell you that. I can even tell you it was on State Street. That's all I'm going to say. about that. And two other things I'm going to bring up before I bring my guest on. And I take this very serious. The oath of office should never be a lie. And I say that because I've been an official and I've taken the oath of office many times in many of my positions that I've had. And many of you all have, whether it's been school board, whether it's been whatever, you've taken an oath of office. But I want to put something in perspective for you tonight before I go to my guests. The men who were fortunate enough to be elected president of the United States comprised of a very small but prestigious group. I'm sure you all agree with that. Since 1789, only 45 men have held the office of president of the United States, and each required to take the oath of office. Regardless of political ideology, the office of the president is a prestigious position of honor and respect, nationally and worldwide. The president is a public servant to the people and bound by their oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. I just want you to keep that in mind. I'm not trying to tell you to form an opinion, but I just want you to keep that in mind, how important that oath is. But I'm going to close tonight before I bring my guest in to put another perspective. I just want to just bring up the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Many of us, 1964 hasn't been that long ago. In 1964, a lot of us were around. But I want to put it in perspective so that you can think about it and understand the importance of what I'm trying to tell you this evening. It was signed on July 2nd, 1964. What did it do? It banned discrimination. You heard me. It banned discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, and national origin. You hear what I said? July 2nd, 1964. But what does that mean? That means they couldn't discriminate no more hotels that we all take for granted now. Some of our grandparents and great-grandparents couldn't stay in them hotels, restaurants, retail stores, even gas stations, and movie theaters, even sports stadiums, but all public accommodation. And the reason I want to bring that up because I want you to keep that in perspective and don't forget that. Because I think sometimes we take for granted that all these things were always here when they weren't here. My point, I just want to create a question mark. And I hope that all of you think about that. 1964, yes, that's right. That wasn't too long ago. Yes, I was alive in 1964, so I'm still here. So when I hear people say, oh, that was a long time ago, folks, it was in my lifetime. So I just want you to think about it. All right, that's the heavy section. What do I got today? I have a guest on. I have a young man on that we are friends some days. Him and I have our differences some days, but he's a young man that I think a lot of. Louis Mott is the Vice President of Business Loan for the Members First. And I brought him on because I want him to talk about business. But before he talks about business, I want him to come on and tell you who he is. And once he tells you who he is, him and I is going to get into the nitty gritty of business. What you should know, what you don't know, and what you think you know. And he's the kind of guy that he doesn't bite his tongue. So I'm not worried about that. Those of you who know him, those of you that know me, know he's going to say what he want to say, and I'm going to say what I want to say. But I brought him on because sometimes when I talk to him and he says some things, I was like, man, so many people should know that. And here is a brother that's doing it feels it and understands it. And that's what this whole program is about. It's about us telling our own story and defining who we are. So without that, I got my brother Lewis on. So Lewis, I'd like you to tell people who you are.
Well, first, it's a pleasure to be here, Richard. I really appreciate it. And as you said, we're friends first, and we have our
Yeah, we do.
have our conversations
We do.
going back and forth. But who I am, like you said, what my position, but I'm more than that. I'm more, I'm a
Right.
helper. I'm a giver. I'm a son. I'm a friend. One of the guys you go to when someone has questions about finance, business. I'm kind of like that go-to guy. So I like to be a wealth of information to people, and that's who I am, and a give back person. That's who I am.
Tell us more about you. Where did you come from? Where'd you grow up at?
Mhm.
What made you decide to do some of the things that you did? People don't know this, but I do know this, that you're a Navy veteran. But tell us where you grew up and how you navigated.
Yeah, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Moved down here. I'm a PK. My father was a pastor, so we moved down here. He was a pastor at the Camp Curtin on 6th Street.
Mhm.
So we came down here when I was about 15, 16 years old, and I went to high school here. After I graduated from high school, Central Dauphin High School, I went to college, went to St. Francis University, which was a blessing just to go to that school. Today, I don't know if many people can even afford that school, speaking about equality all the time now. But after that, I went to the Navy, left the Navy. After the Navy, I started my career in banking. I was blessed to meet a gentleman by the name of Dr. Lawrence. It was funny how we met. We met through, he used to go to this restaurant that I used to go to visit all the time. And I always saw him. He's a Black gentleman, always well put together, suit, tie, look good, smell good, all that. I said, you know what? I'm going to go up and ask him, what does he do and how does he do it? So I did. Went up there, asked him that. He said, hand me his card and said, meet me at my office Monday at 9:00. As you know, I was early. I was there at 8:30.
There you were.
Waiting on him. So he told me everything what he did. He was an investment banker, and he said, okay, it's going to be a 101 course, and I'm going to send you to the 909 course, master's degree course, but I'm not going to pay you. And I said, wow. He said, unless you get a deal, you get paid. So, most people would take that as, well, I'm not going to get paid. No, I'm not going to do this. I'm finished. I took it as an opportunity of learning something and saw a blessing in disguise. And from there, I've started, I left there and after a couple of years, and I started retail banking. I worked for a couple of different financial institutions in the area. And I literally worked my way up to the position I am now. And I'm so grateful because now I can really help people of learning all the facets of banking and being in banking.
I think that's why it's important to have people like you on. I think that I want young people, but I want people to see people like you doing what you're doing. But there's another issue here that you just brought up. It's about people reaching out to people to give them the opportunity. Now, just so happens that Dr. Lawrence and I are friends. We've known each other a long time, a long time. And him and I have had great conversations. I mean, I look back at people like him, he gave you the opportunity, but you saw the opportunity. It's no more like the people have, whether it's the people like the Brian Hudsons, or even the other young Turks like you, like Justin Coleman. I mean, people like you guys are in positions, but what we got to do is allow you to articulate who you are and where you are to give people hope. So, okay, so you're in the banking, and so I'm going to ask you a couple questions early on. I got all kinds of questions I want to ask you, but the first one I want to ask you, tell the audience how important it is about credit scores?
Well, credit score is the first thing that any financial institution is going to check before they even think about lending you any money. You can have the best plan in the world. You can have the best business plan. You can have the best of everything. But if your credit score, your credit worthiness, your character, which is one of the 5 C's of credit, if that doesn't add up, you're going to have a tough battle. But there are certain institutions that can help you with that. There's tons of them online. You can debt relief companies and things like that. You should know your credit score. You should know how to work your credit score. Everyone knows how to YouTube. Everyone knows how to Google. So, you have no reason why, oh, I can't do it. Learn how to budget. How do you learn how to budget?
But would you say credit, I mean, something you said, but I'm gonna stay on credit score.
Mm-hmm.
Credit score is very important. And you're saying it's very important in life because it opens a lot of doors for you, good, bad, or indifferent.
Absolutely.
So you're telling my audience that a lot of them need to understand credit score determines a lot. I mean, would you answer this question for me? Credit scores determine what the interest rate is going to be on the loan, car loan, or whatever.
Car loan, mortgage.
So I want you to know, I want you to tell my audience the significance of it, because sometimes we take it for granted because nobody's really told us till it's too late. So you're suggesting what's some of the things that we can do to help our credit score?
Mm-hmm. Well, it 2 different ways. You need to know what your credit score is, what's on your credit report. Okay. If you have negative dings on your credit report, a lot of times people don't know. Every time you go and look to get an application for a loan, for a car, or for a mortgage or credit card, there is a ding on your credit score right away. That ding, if you have too many, that's a negative notation on your credit report. If you have something you're not paying anything back after 30, 60, 90 days, that's a negative ding on your credit report. You need to know your credit. You need to check it. I check my credit report probably twice a month, and I should check it more. Plus, on top of that, you should know something could happen. We live in a world of identity fraud too. And that's another thing. I've had individuals that said my credit score is 720, and they didn't know that they were a victim of identity fraud. But knowing and watching your credit score is so important. Now, the question is, I'm gonna say, well, what is a good credit score? Right? So some people might not know. They say, oh, I have 620 credit score. That's a average to below average credit score. Okay. When you get to about around 660, 680, 690, now you're in the world of, hey, possibly get a mortgage, possibly, get accepted for, you get approved for a credit card, because you're at that average to good. Now, good to greats, you're 700s and up. Now, absolutely excellent, of course, is 800 credit score. And knowing that, you can say, okay, I need to work on certain things on my credit report.
Okay, let me ask you a question. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here, but it's also life experience of things I've heard and know. Now, a lot of people think that not going out and getting a credit card and charging up everything and saying, I ain't going to worry about paying it. I want you to respond to that one. And also, people need to understand sometimes about the whole co-signing for people. And also, those out there that have a tendency to put that credit card or bill in somebody else's name. Would you address that? Because I think the problem is sometimes we sugarcoat it. And that's why I got you on, because you're the kind of person that don't sugarcoat. You're direct. I mean, you cut right to it. And that's why I have you on it. So please, you're never nice to me any other time. So please don't be nice to me.
So I'm going to kind of like go backwards with those questions, okay?
Sure.
I mean, my mama wouldn't co-sign for a car for me. If she tell me to say it the same, don't co-sign nothing for me. It's your credit. You know, I understand people get in situations, but you know, I just had a brother not too long call me today, literally today, and said, hey, I have an issue. I co-signed on a car loan for an individual, and that individual is no longer paying for last month, so I had to pay. And I don't think they're going to pay this month, so I'm going to have to pay, or my credit score is going to be dinged, and my credit score is going to go down. And I don't recommend, me personally, unless you're going into business with each other and you're going to make money together, and it's on both of you guys. I'm not a big fan of co-signing. It's not me.
Okay, so you're telling people, I'm just saying this. So you're telling people, when people come to people, whether it's your brother, sister, mother, father, cousin, friend, they need to understand, and I want you to explain that. They need to understand the significance of when they co-sign. Because would you tell them they're responsible? So therefore, if you co-sign for me and I don't pay, that means you have to pay?
They're going to call me and they're going to say, well, both of you guys are on the.
Okay. And people need to understand that. So you're both are responsible.
Yep, equally
And so-
responsible.
And so people need to understand that, because we always hear that word thrown around about, will you co-sign for me? Okay, so we talked about co-sign. So what about the importance of people paying their credit card off, or paying their payment? Because a lot of times people get credit cards and they say, oh, they gave me $1,000, so I'm gonna run up $1,000, and then
Pay the minimum payments.
well, not only that, well, we'll talk about the minimum, but before you get to the minimum, I got $1,000, I ran up to $1,000, and I ain't gonna pay it. So it ain't gonna affect me. Would you explain to them how it's gonna affect them?
Yeah, so how credit card use, how credit card companies and financial institutions look at credit and see if you're responsible using credit. So we're gonna take your $1,000. They want to see if you use $1,000 within that month. They want to see if you can pay that $1,000 down to at least 30% utilization of that credit card to keep good credit, saying that you can, whatever you take, you're good at paying it back.
Okay.
Well, I know sometimes they think, oh, well, I'm going to run it up to $1,000 and I'm only going to pay the minimum $21 every single month. And in reality, if you look at it over a period of time, if you actually do that and you do the calculation, you're going to end up paying about $5,000 back if you do that through a course of time, because you're never going to pay that credit card down. The credit card interest rates typically are around 12 to sometimes 27%. And so the correct way to utilizing credit is to, whatever you use, pay it off. Don't go past 30, 40%. That's your maximum. You don't want to extend any more than that.
Okay. So, okay, so we talked about credit cards. So let's talk about some other things. I got so many things I want to talk to you about this evening. Let's go. I'm going to change the subject. A lot of people say, oh, I want to open up my own business. So how's this whole lending thing important if you want to open up a business? Now, one of the things you said a few minutes ago was you could have a good plan. So could you explain to me what you mean, or to my audience, about, well, you can have a good plan, but I'm still not going to give you no money?
So, I mean, when you start a business, the first thing that you need to do is you need to have a business plan. You need to know what you're doing. You need to have a summary. You need to know what products and services that you're going to be using. You need to know, your marketing, your territory. You need to do a SWOT analysis. And if you don't know what that means, you can Google it. What your marketing, your sales look like. Your company organization, what your company organization look at. Sometimes it's only one person, but other times there's multiple people. And of course, as a banker, we're going to look at your financial projections. What's your expenses? What's your costs? How much money do you plan on bringing in monthly? And what's your bills? And does it make sense? That's number one, that before you even get to the next step. And then, building relationships. That will say that's also key. Finding a mentor, someone that's been in that business before, or even maybe someone that's not even been in a business. It might be a mentor. It could be someone that is in your community that you say, well, what would you think about this type of business? And they can be your mentor, and they tell you, they won't even know what you're talking about. Finding a lawyer, having an accountant, having a networking group. That's key too. Networking group of, if you're want to get a restaurant, there's restaurant networking groups, there's real estate networking groups. That's key that you can learn so much from. Having an accountant, having a financial advisor, because a lot of people, they get into a business, but they don't know what, their financial advisor has planned for them. You need to make this one to hit your goal if you want to retire by 55. And then also your vendors, depending if you are having some products and services, have built those relationships. Those are all keys to actually, before you even get to a point of getting finance, to starting your business up. Those are just simple things that and then know your credit situation.
So you're saying, you're telling my audience out here, those who want to go get into business, they need to do research.
Absolutely.
And so you're saying research should be, one, develop this business plan, but at the same time, develop the business plan. So you're saying they need to do research to find out whatever business they want to be in, is it viable in the neighborhoods they are in? And that, because a lot of times people want to own businesses, but they don't understand there's a lot to it.
Right.
So would you tell the audience that a business is just not like having a job? So could you explain the responsibility to owning a business? The reason I want you to do that, because I run into a lot of people and I say, well, I'm gonna own my own business. And I say, what are you gonna do? And they'll name something and I listen to what they say, and they'll say they want to own a business, but they saw it on TV, or it might be in a bigger city that it might be much more productive than in doing it here.
Right.
So you're saying people should do marketing research.
Absolutely.
So not only marketing research, so you're saying that this business plan has got to be tight. And how are you going, even though sometimes our friends and our families tell us a great idea, and sometimes our friends and our family tell us that they will buy the product, but we need more than them.
Yeah, sometimes your family and friends, ones don't support you, they support you the least.
You heard what he said? Now, he said that, and he would know that. Sometimes your family can support you the least.
Yes. And, sometimes people go to sometimes people want to give their business approach to their family and friends, which is great. There's nothing wrong with it. Those are the ones that's going to give you probably the best criticism and tell you that ain't going to work and you don't know what you're doing and you're crazy. But again, you got to go back to doing your research. You got to, because you're not going to know what you're doing. You don't have what's your plan. You have people want to open a restaurant, but I say, well, what's on your menu? I'm stuck. Well, what's your hours of open business? Oh, I'm open from 5 to 9. That's not enough hours to make enough money. Who's going to be in the kitchen? Who's going to run this? Who's going to do? Are you planning on being there 80 hours a week? These are all questions that you should have, all answers that you should have in your business plan. Just a restaurant. If you're wanting to get into the real estate market, a lot of people, I want to get in the real estate market. Just give me $500,000, Lou, and I'm going to buy houses and flip them, but no plan. What kind of houses are you going to get to? What's going to be your cap rate? Who are you working with as far as a realtor is concerned? What are some of the rents that you're going to have? These are all questions that need to be answered before you even get into something like any business, start anything. Because you know what? If you're looking for money, those are things that every finance institution is going to ask for.
Now, would you also say that they need to sometimes look at what kind of money that they can invest into their vision or their dream?
Yeah, gotta have skin in the game. Very few finance institutions going to fund a business 100% because the bank is taking a risk. So you have, your credit worthiness, your capacity, which is another 5 C's of credit, what can you afford? typically a bank is going to say, well, you need to put your 20%, 25% into it before we even look at even financing you. So you got to have skin in the game before the bank says yes.
So you use the word skin in the game.
Mhm.
So you're saying that you have to have some equity into whatever you're doing to show the lending institution that you're willing to take a risk on your own self. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Financing a bank is typically not going to finance 100%. It happens very, very seldom. It doesn't happen too often.
That's why I have you on here, so that you can be honest and candid with the listening audience. As I said, I hear it all the time. I want to own a business. What kind of business? And they'll do a pie in the sky. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what he told you is that you're going to have to do a business plan. How do you do a business plan? Do some research. Look it up.
Yeah, I tell you, there's a great resource that we have here right on Front Street in Harrisburg. It's, I believe it's the Small Business Development Center.
Okay.
There's one here. I think one of the remote locations here on Front Street. Another one is in Shippensburg. Another one's in Kutztown. They'll walk you through step by step to creating your business plan. They will help you create it. They're not going to do it for you because remember, it's your business plan, but they will help you and they will guide you in every step of the way. And everyone that I know that has gone through that, they know the business plan in and out. One of the worst things you can go to a banker and say, well, how much can you give me? That's one of the worst things you say if you have a business, because you have no idea what you got going on. You don't have a clue.
Okay. I mean, that's why we got you on here, so you can tell us what not to do.
Yeah, don't do
Because I'm sure you were saying that because people have done that.
that. Of course.
I'm sure they have. Just like when you said, the first thing people need when they want to do a business, they need to do a business plan. I mean, you talked about the importance of credit and credit worthiness. Let me ask you this here. What do you consider smart financing? And when I say smart financing, I want you to elaborate on how people have to start to look long-term. See, sometimes we're very short-term people and we got images pop up. So how do we try to navigate through the financial pits and falls? Because there's so many out there. And I'd like for you just to explain to the audience some of the financial pitfalls that you think that's out there that we need to be aware of.
Yeah. Again, business plan. Know your financial projections. And if you know that you need to make $4,000 every single month to pay your bills, and you have a warning sign that you're at the 29th and you're at 2,000 and you only have 2,000, you have a shortfall. And that is going to cut into your profits, paying your people, whatever it may be. You're going to have a shortfall there. If you are looking at retiring or down the road, like I said, those contacts that you need is a financial planner, financial advisor, helping you through every step of the way in your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 15-year plan, or even just your 6-month plan, your year plan, and give yourself goals. I think not planning is another big issue. If you say, I'm always going to just make this amount of money every single month, you want to grow. You want to have growth in the business. You don't want to stay stagnant, or you don't really want to lose. You want to grow. So your plan needs to show that your business is growing and how it's growing, whether if it's through marketing, sales, selling more product, growing, whatever it may be, you want to show growth, and you have to plan your growth. Again, I always say, go back to this business plan because it's your Bible. It's what you're planning on doing down the road. And this is your stepping stone.
I know that you care a lot about the minority community. And because you care about the minority community, what are some of the things that frustrate you in terms of you think that we need to know so that we can not frustrate you, but help you do your job better and help us get some more money from you?
Well, some things that just frustrate me, I would say, will be just the, what we say is, it doesn't frustrate, but it's a lack of knowledge of how to get funding, how to get finance. A lot of people go on, have these self-help places online and spend money on it, and someone tell them that they can get 100% finance, and they say, "Oh, no, Joe Blow told me on this seminar that I can get this 100% finance from the bank, and every bank does it. And this is this program," and it's necessary. It's not true. And I would say building relationships with financial institutions, because a lot of our folks, they see faces that are not familiar in the banking industry a lot of the times, and they just feel like they're going to automatically, I'm going to get denied. I'm done. There's no way I'm going to be able to get finance for what I got going on.
So you're saying that sometimes the financial institution intimidates us.
Yes.
So how can we become much more warm towards financial institutions? So you say, so what should we do?
Build those relationships with the financial institution that you're working with. Get with the banker and ask them, well, what are the qualifications for me to get finance? Or what are some questions? What are some things that I need to have squared away to get finance? Build that bank account, save money.
So you're also saying, and we can flip it, I'm gonna flip it real quickly here. It's just like buying or financing a house. Sometimes people don't understand they want to buy a house, but when the word comes up, down payment, they don't understand it. And they don't know that maybe they should have saved some money up because they had that vision.
Yeah, you gotta have it. There's no one going, not many banking financial institutions going to fund 100%, like I said before.
Well, you already used the word. So ladies and gentlemen, if you would hear nothing else he says tonight, you need to know the word skin in the game. That's what he's been saying. You gotta have skin in the game. But you know what, you said skin in the game, for the most part, you gotta have skin in the game. And let me ask you this here, and I'm gonna move on. There's a lot of people out here who wants to they want to build houses. They want to build apartment buildings, and they have a vision. But would you explain to them what you just said 5 minutes ago? If you ain't got no skin in the game, who gonna help you out? So what do you tell those people they should do? They should do what?
Personally, get with someone that's done it before. Get with a builder that's built some homes. Get with a mentor that can kind of lead them down the lane. Hey, this is how I did it. This is how I see other people doing it. And then you got to save your money. The cost of construction right now is through the roof. Some things, supplies have gone down a little bit, but when you're building something, land developing, you definitely want to get with somebody to do it. If it's your first time doing it and you just say, I want to just build homes and build affordable housing for people, and it's your first rodeo, I would say to get with land developers, other people, architects that have done it before. Get with your team. Has to be set and it has to be solid. And because there's things out there that you can qualify for doing it, but if you've never done it before, you're not going to get these sort of quote unquote, I hate to say grants or just funding out there to help you through the process. But you definitely have your team in place when you're talking about any construction, because it's great, the construction side, but you got to really have your ducks in a row on that one. Way more than just putting the business plan together.
Okay, let me go. All right. You've been saying this word 5 times, maybe 6, mentoring. They need to know something. So how do they get mentoring and how they know that those people exist? I mean, that's why I have the programs I have, so people know who you are or know who business people are and what they're navigating through so that they can see the frustration. One of the important parts of this program is, did you know, I want my audience to understand it ain't always what it looks like. They don't understand how you got to where you got to. So how did you get to where you got to? Because apparently in the financing, and I'm sure you worked your way up, you had to dot the I's and cross the T's. And that's very important. And my audience needs to understand it. So mentoring, there's a lot of you out there that can bring a lot of knowledge. So you're saying mentoring, so they need to, so are you saying that they need to find out what people like you are doing? Like Justin Coleman's doing, or James Lawrence is doing. So they need to find out what they're doing and then talk to them. I can honestly say this, the three people I named, at least there's a lot of them, so don't misunderstand, there's a whole lot of people I know, but I'm just using James Lawrence. He's a very approachable guy. Justin's a very dope guy. You're a very approachable guy. So you're saying before you set out, talk to people that know.
Absolutely. If you want to get into any, and a lot of people, a lot of times a mentor might not even know that they're mentoring you. You can pick up the phone, and if you don't know anything about land development, you can have an idea, call a land development company or someone, a GC, and say, hey, I want to sit down, talk to you, have an idea what do you think? A lot of them will help you. Some may say I need a check because they're busy now. Or it can be a person that's on a job site somewhere. You can just start asking them questions. Well, how do you do this? How do you do this? How much does this cost? And just start asking questions. And you have to open yourself up. You're only going to go as far in this world as the people you talk to.
Let me ask you this question. I'm a big believer that entrepreneurship is very important. And I really believe in the minority community, for us to move to a higher level, we're going to have to develop entrepreneurs. We just can't be workers all the time. So I think that's very important. I get very upset when I hear people say, well, somebody came in and opened these mom pop stores, grocery stores, or whatever, but yet we don't invest in them and we don't support them. So what do you tell the audience out there the importance of three things? One, we need to support one another. Two, we need to look at things that is going to be productive, or they need to, so that they can make money, so that we can create entrepreneurs. You see, I'm a big believer in, I'm tired of a lot of times, and we go to the table, but we don't bring nothing to the table. And if we're going to have some say in it, and I'll use your favorite word, skin in the game, then we got to go there with something.
Yes.
And there's so many people out there that we need to support. And would you explain to my audience the importance of supporting our own entrepreneurs? I mean, whether it's construction, drywall, paint, whatever it is, that we got to support them, because if we support them, then they'll support us. And then some of your children who can't get a job because they screwed up when they was 15, 16, and they got a little criminal record now, and so the system won't hire them, but we can hire them because we understand.
Very important.
So could you please explain how you feel about that?
Yeah, it's very important. Ownership is very important. Having your own business is extremely important. Just to give you a great example, there is a gentleman that I know personally. He's in the field of construction.
Okay.
He's hired a lot of Black folks that look like me and look like you, and given a lot of opportunities. And as far as the importance of everything of that, I'll tell you, Richard, with me, I'm more an entrepreneur, helping entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs. I've helped other Black folks create a business from scratch, as you know, a couple of them yourself. And they are some of the happiest, stressful people, you know, because they're happy, because they have freedom. I'll tell you, when you own your own business and you have your own income coming in, it's a blessing to be able to hire people. And it's a blessing to be able to get up and work hard at what you do. It's not, put my feet up. It's stressful. It's not easy, but it's your own. And you own it, and it's yours. And that is freedom right there.
Sometimes I get criticized because I have all kinds of people that watch my show, and I've had people respond to me and tell me that I'm racist or I don't see things in the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be realistic. I love to tell you we live in a colorblind society, but we don't. And that's why I have this program, because I can bring it down like I brought up earlier. When I brought up the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it wasn't that long ago. And then I got to say it was signed July 2nd, 1964. And I said, what was it about? It was about banning discrimination based on race, color, creed, and national origin. And people probably said, oh, wasn't that long ago, folks? Hotels, restaurants. Remember, before we couldn't go to some hotels. We couldn't go to some restaurants. We couldn't go to some gas stations. I mean, we take it all for granted now, and that's good. It should have been that way all along, but it wasn't. But that does not help that we as a people not develop businesses to help our community. We need to help ourselves. I keep saying that. We can't keep waiting on somebody to come in the minority community and look out for our vested interests, because nobody ain't gonna do it if we don't do it ourselves. So don't get mad when somebody else come in and do it. They just taking advantage of the opportunity. So what he's trying to say to you is we got to look long-term and short-term, but we need to plan it out.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
100%.
And something you said earlier is about research. We got to do research. Everybody we can have 20 restaurants, but at the same time, that's all we got, and we ain't got nothing else. But we have to support one another, because that's very important. Let me just ask you this. Give me based on your ability and your profession, give me 5 or 6 do's in terms of just financing for us, and 5 don'ts.
Oh, do's and don'ts. So
Sure.
The do, make sure you have the plan, like I said before. Do's, make sure you know your credit score, your credit worthiness. Do's, make sure you have some money set aside to fund your own plan. Do's, to make sure you do your research. Do's, make sure you have the right people around you to give you the proper education, proper knowledge to do what you're doing. Don't, everything opposite of what I said to do.
But okay, the opposite of what you said. But at the same time, let's just skip business. Let's just go down to the nitty-gritty of the average person. So you were saying the average person, you got to pay your bills.
Yes.
You hear that? You got to pay your bills. Good, bad, you got to pay your bills. Don't run up credit cards that you can't afford not to pay.
Yes.
Right? Even though somebody give you a credit card and it tells you that you got a $2,000 limit on it, you're saying this don't go run up $2,000 because they gave you a $2,000 limit. Have the ability to pay it.
Yes.
Tell me this. What do you think about, and people don't know this, about credit and what kind of interest rate they get, good credit, bad credit, as well as insurance and things of that? Because people don't really realize how credit affects all those things. So could you tell my audience how all those things, just more than just, he ain't talking about just owning the business. He's talking about some things that's very important that you need to know to help navigate your life.
Yeah, so credit and credit correlation to what rate you will receive. every bank has, or every financial institution has, it's called a risk rating. Usually it goes from 1 to 10 or 12 or whatever. 1 being the absolute best credit, you're good, you're getting the best rate. They look at they look at your what income you're bringing in. They're looking at your credit, your character of what your credit score is. They're looking at your debt coverage ratio, like you said, of the using the credit card and maxing it out to $2,000. They're looking at and seeing, are you capable of utilizing your credit the proper way? If you're just maxing it out and then you're done out, you're paying minimum payments, your credit worthiness is not you're going to risk higher than somebody that pays it off every single month.
Okay, let me ask you this. A lot of people don't know this, but you know this. Would you explain to my audience, even to the point you want to rent a house, how they want to make sure if you pay your rent to the last place that you lived in?
Yeah.
Or I know for a fact, because I sat on that board a long time, Harrisburg Housing Authority, where people, the rent could have been very minimum, but they didn't pay it. And they didn't care about paying it until they came up to a situation where they had to move somewhere else. And all of a sudden, you use that big word, negative credit. Would you explain to them how significant that is?
You don't pay even utility bills now will go against your credit if you don't pay your utility bills. And if you don't pay your rent, it gets reported. You get reported and it goes straight on your credit report. So you have to pay your rent. You have to pay. Don't just because you don't pay your rent for this person and you think you're going to go somewhere else. That person's already put down an eviction notice on you. You get evicted. That goes in your credit report.
You got to pay your rent. And then you have people say, oh, I have kids out here and they don't have nowhere to go, but it was your responsibility to pay the rent. And now you want me to be responsible. You want me to be responsible because you didn't pay your rent. So you're saying it's important. Let me ask you this, or let me just say this. Time is moving so fast. I'd like for you to share with my audience what you consider very, very important in the overall scheme of credit and finance in the next few minutes.
The overall scheme of just building credit, it's a lot involved when you ask that question.
Sure, I know it is, but I just want you to touch lightly on it because people take it for granted until they have to use it.
It's extremely important. If you're looking to get a car, sometimes you can get that car, but you're going to pay 18%. And 18% on $20,000, you do the math, that's a lot of money over the next 5-6 years. And you're just making the bank is collecting that interest before they get off, they pay before you pay that car off. So just to let you know, your interest is going to be higher than your actual principal payment for quite some time until it switches over. Your credit score, if you want to apply for student loans or apply for a credit card, it's so important because anything you want to do, you need credit. You want to buy a house, you need credit. You want to buy a car, you need credit. You want to open a business, your chances are at some point you're going to need credit. It is so important not to live off. And I think a lot of us, we want to go into just pay our own cash and just, I got cash. And they get to a certain point where they can't grow anymore and they don't have any credit history. So now they're at a standstill that they can't grow their business or they can't move into that house with a mortgage because they pay cash for everything. So credit is I can't stress as much how important credit is to live in this world that we live in today. I would rather have extremely great credit than $100,000 in the bank.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
Because I can get that $400,000 mortgage with great credit. I can get that car with 0 down and 2% interest rate. Instead of, you go to the car lot, we need you to put $7,000 down before we say yes to you.
But this is why I have people like you on to explain this to us. We don't have nobody to explain these things to us. We've never had people in positions like you. And because we got people in positions like you, we need to honor you. We need to support you. But at the same time, one of the most important things that we need to do is tap your knowledge. Because if we don't tap your knowledge, then that's shame on us. Now you're in those positions. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that how could they reach you? How can they talk to you?
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Lewis Robinson Motley. You can also reach me at Motley, Motley, the letter L, at membersfirst.org. You can also reach me at my cell phone, 717-910-8331. And I'll be more than happy to, sit down, talk, and point you in the right direction and see answer whatever questions you may have. And,
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got something from this. I believe you do. If you didn't get anything, you got skin in the game. And I think it's very important that I bring people on to kind of tell you what they do and how they do it. But I want to say this. He has to be bright. He has to be smart. He has to be articulate to be in that position. So if you look at him, I want you to look at your grandsons. I want you to look at your granddaughters, because I'm telling you, they can be the next him. But we got to tap him and use all the knowledge that he has. So I will continue to bring people on to tell their story, because I believe we have to define ourselves. We cannot wait on anybody else to define us, because we've already gone down that road. And all of us know it hasn't been a pleasant one. We know that how people perceive us sometimes based on how we was defined, even though that really wasn't us. So I want to thank you for tuning in this evening. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. But remember, the program is Did You Know? But you got to do your own research, because you're the ones that got to know. So thank you. Have a good evening. And thank you, my brother. And it's been very good, because him and I don't always get along. But today we didn't have no fights on here. So we had our best behavior. Right? We had our best behavior. But we don't always agree. So follow up with him. He volunteered to help you. So say there's no excuse, because he offered to help you. And even though this program is listed all over, not just in Harrisburg, but you can call him. He'll help you no matter where you are. And why do I say that? Because he's a true brother. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you for joining the Richard Utley Show on The Voice 17104. We will be here on The Voice 17104 every first and third Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Once again, thanks for viewing. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Richard Utley, and we welcome your questions and/or comments.